Welcome, everyone, to Resolve to Live Forward. This is John Morrow. Happy Friday to you, and I'm honored that you chose to spend time with me today. Today, we are making a slight shift. We're in a series of episodes that cover over a 6-month period of time every Friday. This particular episode, which is number 16, has a title that is representing, for me at least, a shift in direction. I've consulted with my friends and with other resources about the direction that I'm going with the podcast. And I thank you, by the way, for being a follower and a listener. I don't think that this particular shift will be a disruption to you, but what I'm trying to do is show you something that really speaks to the entire idea of why the word resolve is such a powerful word in my life and why I live by the principles embodied in the 7 letters of resolve, RESOLVE, the letters representing resilience, engagement, service, organization, learning, vision, and of course, enthusiasm. These are all things which are daily practices. They're what I call best practices and the best things that you can do for life. But I want to talk to you for a few moments about, in this episode, the power of one more step, the power of just one more step. Now, think about that for just a moment. Can it really be all that simple? Have you ever noticed that life rarely changes all at once, but rather it's a process? Yes, there are the sudden unexpected things that occur that disrupt our lives, but we often imagine transformation as being sort of like one giant leap instead of things all changing at once. One breakthrough moment, one life-changing decision. But when I look back over my life, that's not what I see. I see something much simpler and much more powerful. I see one small step. And I'm not quoting Neil Armstrong here, but I think it makes sense because it has application. In life, the idea of even getting out of bed, kind of like the example I've told you before, that the practice of resilience, the idea that when you wake up in the morning, the very fact that you roll out of bed, you put your feet on the floor, you stand up and you begin your day, you take that first step, that is an act of resilience. So that's one small step. But it also could be one more conversation or one more attempt or one more day where you simply say, I'm going to go ahead and follow through with it. I'm not going to quit. I'm going to do it. Sometimes we are overwhelmed by the fact that mm, we're starting to think that we're staring at a mountain. Yeah. Now, I grew up in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and right there in Chattanooga, Tennessee, big as anything you could ever imagine, is a mountain called Lookout Mountain. Now, it's not a rocky mountain, but it is tied to the Appalachians. Although it's a bit away from the Smokies, it's still part of what is an incredibly historic and ancient mountain range that is a part of the United States along the eastern seaboard area, all the way down into the southeast, down into Georgia. But that mountain can stare you in the face, and when you look at it, it goes up a ways. And you think you're staring when you get up in the morning at a mountain when simply you're looking at a foothold. We are convincing ourselves that because we can't finish the journey today, there's no point in trying to start. But life doesn't require perfection, my friends. Life simply asks us, keep moving, take one step at a time. After my wife Donna passed away in 2019, there were days when moving forward didn't feel possible. People would encourage me with their best intentions. They would say things like, you'll get through this. Time heals all wounds. Just stay busy. This is a new stage, a new journey in your life. I've even heard the term, there's closure. And I appreciate these things, but they really don't represent what one must do when you arrive at a place where it's you and you alone, and the thing that mattered the most to you is no longer there. The truth is, there were mornings when the idea of getting out of bed and putting on clothes, it was hard. But in so doing, it was progress. Interesting. Making breakfast was progress. Wow. Putting food on the plate, progress. Funny, huh? Answering the telephone or returning a voice message was progress. Grief has taught me something that I never expected. Progress isn't measured by the size of each step that we take. It's measured by the fact that we're stepping in a forward direction. And if the direction is forward, one small step is still a success. Let me say that again. If the direction is forward, one small step is still progress. Here's a quote for you. Courage isn't always the roaring of a lion. Sometimes courage is simply deciding to take one more step. But there is a myth to the idea of overnight success. We're waiting for that moment to come when, boom, all the success comes. And we live in a culture that celebrates dramatic stories. Stories of those people who were overnight successes, of a viral video that had millions of views, or even $1 million idea that changed lives. But here's something worth remembering. Every overnight success usually, if you really analyze it, it was the result of years of quiet preparation for the person who was successful or for whatever the project might have been. For example, every musician accomplished their success, but it took practicing scales initially and developing keyboard fundamentals. Every accomplished speaker stumbled through early speeches. I've given hundreds of speeches, and there are still times when I stumble through them. Every successful author started looking at a blank piece of paper, whether they were writing it or whether they were keyboarding it. They were looking at a blank sheet. Growth happens quietly before growth becomes visible. I repeat, growth happens quietly before growth becomes visible. That's an amazing thing to say, but it's true. There is all that behind the scenes work that takes place before the so-called overnight success happens. Here are 3 principles that I want to share with you today on living forward, which is one of the mantras of my life. As you know, living forward is choice. So here are 3 steps. Number 1, small steps build great journeys. Let me repeat that. Small steps build great journeys. Don't underestimate the power of consistency. Keep doing it again and again. Read 5 pages every day rather than trying to commit yourself to read 100 pages during the course of the month, but not having a consistency, because when are you going to read the pages? Daily or just randomly? Read 5 pages every day consistently, and it's amazing how that will accumulate. Walk 15 minutes every day instead of waiting for the perfect time to start a fitness program. Call just one friend that matters to you every day, or text one friend that matters to you every day. Send an email to a friend every day that matters to you. Consistency every day, at least one small thing. If you have a journal, write a paragraph every day, not a whole page, just write a paragraph. See, everything worthwhile in this life begins by small, consistent, intentional. Yes, I will do it steps. It's intentionality. I talk about intentionality all the time. But that's just the first insight that I want to share with you. The second insight is progress beats perfection. Progress beats perfection. I know people who tell me when in Toastmasters, I'm not ready to give the speech. I want to wait until I have it down and I'm ready and I'll give the speech. And here's a phrase that I will tell them. If you wait until you're ready, you're never going to give the speech. The truth is, you're never going to be ready completely. You'll have fundamentals and components in place, but you still got to take the step and do it because you see, the idea of perfection is intimidating. Yeah, that's a good phrase. Perfection is intimidating. Why does it have to be perfect? Have you ever heard somebody say, I'm not going to be happy until it's perfect? But is there really such a thing in this world as perfection? Oh, I'm sure there are a handful of very, very precious things that are perfection, but in the life of human beings, perfection is not something that we accomplish in some cases ever. But here's the thing. Although perfection is intimidating, progress actually invites you to try. You see, if you wait until everything's perfect, you'll spend life just simply waiting. Ask yourself one simple question. What's the one thing that I can do today? What is the one thing that I can do today? What can I do right today? Not next month, not next year. What is one thing that I can do today that matters? And number three, learn to celebrate it when you make a forward progress. Forward progress means something because you're further ahead than you were, and you may think such a small thing. Well, the point is, it's progress, so celebrate it. Most of us are experts at noticing what we have not done or have accomplished, and we become equally skilled at recognizing what we have done. But what we need to do is we need to focus on the what we have done and make that the priority of what we're doing and express a thoughtfulness of thanks in the form of a prayer or just a smile across their face and realize, yeah, I did that. Celebrate the effort. Celebrate the discipline that you applied in accomplishing. Celebrate showing up when you were asked to show up. Success isn't just about arriving, success is refusing to stop. Success isn't about arriving, success is about refusing to stop. Martin Luther King said this, and I've had this quote and given it before. You don't have to see the entire staircase to take the next step. Think about that for just a second. What if the staircase is through a door that looks like a closet and there's no light on and it's dark, but you can see the first step? Do you have the confidence to believe that if you take the first step, the next one will appear? Because after all, it is a stair step. One of the defining words in my life, as you know, is the power word that my wife and I picked for ourselves back in 2017. The power word is resolve. That was when we decided that we were fed up with doing New Year's resolutions and we were going to adopt a power word. And that power word was not wishful thinking. Resolve means one, having a definite, firm plan of action. That's a definition that literally changed my life and the life of my wife as well. But I did not know how that definition would change my life when June of 2019 showed up. But I thank God for that power word and for the fact that my late wife played a role in putting that power word together for me. And it means the world to me because this is the thing that I continue to cling to tenaciously. I grip it, actually. I don't cling to it. I grip it tenaciously as well. Look at it this way. Resolve doesn't eliminate the obstacles in life. Resolve instead gives me the determination to move through the obstacles in my life. And it can do the same for you if you were to adopt such a power word. Every day I ask myself a simple question. What does living forward look like today? What does living forward look like today? And it might be a very, very simple thing. Anything from mowing the grass or trimming weeds or hauling debris to the street so that the city solid waste refuse company can pick it up. What about in the house? Vacuuming, dusting, cleaning. What about taking care of financial responsibilities and bills and working on creativity and ideas, producing the script for these podcasts that I present to you? What does the idea of living forward look like today? And the answer is almost never a spectacular one, but it's always an intentional one. It's a choice. Living forward is a choice. I've said it before. I'll say it again. Intention is everything. So, getting back to the thematic element of this, one small step, and it's just those small steps that make the difference. Life is not about the big leaps, it's about the small steps, the intentional small steps forward. Here's some practical tips. As a matter of fact, here are 5 that I came up with that I want to share with you. Number one, please. Number one, think about these, write them down, get yourself a pen and piece of paper. Here we go. I wrote them down. As a matter of fact, I've got them right here on this piece of paper. Okay. Number one, make one phone call that you've been postponing or putting off. Make one phone call that you've been putting off, but make the call. One. Number two, pick a book, a good book, and read 10 pages. 10 pages. But do it every day. Number three, tell someone you appreciate them. Go out of the way to tell someone you appreciate them. What does that look like? A phone call, a text message, an email, or if you happen to be in a place with your peers and acquaintances, do you take the moment to look them in the eye and tell them, I appreciate you? Number four, remember the journal I was telling you about? This is one of my areas that I sometimes fall down on quite a bit. But if you wrote a paragraph every day, just one paragraph, and that paragraph spoke to a dream that you have, if you do that every day, those paragraphs will accumulate into not just a massive, clear, identifiable picture of that dream, but I almost absolutely guarantee you that dream will come to life. And number five, and this one is one that I'm challenging myself with because I'm not currently doing it and I need to, and I'm really, really going to have to work on this one, but think about it. Go for a walk, but don't just go for a walk. And the walk can be, I'd say, at least 15 minutes. It could be 30 minutes, just depends upon where you walk. But here's the trick. Take the walk and leave your phone at home. Take the walk and leave your phone at home. This is your time. Take your walk and look at the surroundings that you are walking in as you travel that path. And you won't have a distraction. If there's a distraction, it's going to be the fact that you're walking in a particular venue, and there is where the distractions come. And that's a delight because that's where you make discoveries. You see, small actions can turn into meaningful habits, and meaningful habits become a part of your character. And when you have shaped your character the right way. It shapes the destiny in your life and the legacy that you leave when this life is over. That's, I'm preaching to the choir here. I'm talking to myself. This is the truth. I've got to be as good at this as I'm asking you to be. And I'm so glad that there are those of you out there that this resonates with you as well as it resonates with me. Ask yourself, where have I stopped because I believed I had to make a giant leap? I'll ask it again. Where have I stopped in my journey because I believed I had to make a giant leap? Here's another question. What if your breakthrough isn't waiting for one emotional decision? What if it's waiting for one small step? Wow. Think about it. In the power word resolve, I often talk about resilience, and we think of resilience as, well, for example, here we are. It's um, we're on the, I think, 17th day. No, the sixth, yeah, it's the 17th day of the month of July. It's a Friday. This coming Sunday is the World Cup final, the 104th and final game of a series of cup matches that have taken well over a month to take place here in the North American continent, across venues in Mexico, the United States, and of course, Canada. And the final will take place at MetLife Stadium, New York, New Jersey. And it's the culmination of a series of steps that started over the last 4 years that leads to these countries coming here to play down to that one final where the World Cup champion will be crowned based upon the performance that take place on the field. We think about that and we think about all the resilience that it took. And true, it's an athletic event. It takes tremendous stamina. The professional football league teams are starting to have their preseason practices in preparation for some preseason games in August and the kickoff of the NFL football season this fall. College football teams will start showing up at their facilities at these various universities around the United States to get ready for the college football season. Baseball is in full swing. As a matter of fact, they just had the All-Star break, and now baseball is getting ready to start the second half of the season, with the culmination being in October, the World Series. WNBA basketball is moving through, even though there's a lot of chaos in it, it is moving through the course of its season as it always does, while basketball teams will start preparing for the beginning of the professional basketball season, as well as college basketball in the fall. And professional hockey's going to, do you see what I mean? And we think about all those, and those, of course, are athletic events, and people have to be in athletic shape. But here's the thing about us with resilience. Resilience for many people begins with the idea of it's time to get out of bed, pull the covers off, roll in such a way that you can set up on the edge of the bed at the side, put your feet on the floor, and then stand up. But it doesn't stop there. You take a step and then another. And as you're doing that, some things you know you're going to do because they're part of the routine, but there are other things that you have earmarked as to do things for the day. When I got up this morning, I knew I needed to prepare some notes and script and outline for this podcast. I could have easily said, I don't feel like it. I could have easily said, let's just postpone the podcast. But you see, that's the difference between saying, okay, I'll do it if I feel like it, and doing it no matter what because it's the right thing to do. Take the step, do the step. Here's a quote: "The future isn't built on giant leaps." Now, you may look back and say, wow, did I actually get that done? And it may feel like it's a giant leap, but in reality, it began with one small step. So the future isn't built on giant leaps, it's built on faithful steps taken one at a time, one day at a time. Hmm, that's pretty good. Intentionality. Intentionality. It goes back to what I said here at the beginning of the podcast: the power of one more step. The power of one more step. This is the world that we live in. This is the life that we have presented to it. Some of it we chose, but in reality, for some people, it's just another day, and they look and they think to themselves, I just don't know. I don't want to be that way. Nope. I want to live intentionally in a forward moving direction. There are fears, and they're legitimate, but there are also fears that are simply lies that want to occupy our thought process and our productivity process and keep us from taking those intentional small steps that represent personal success. If you don't make up your mind to be intentional about the business of living, what you've done is you have chosen to be intentional about the business of waiting to die. And I've talked about that before because you know that The Shawshank Redemption is one of, if not the all-time favorite motion picture of my life. And it's because it's one of those motion pictures, and I'm not going to give you any spoilers here, that every time you watch it, you think you've seen and heard and embraced everything, but you just take more in. It is rich, rich in messaging that is very powerful and life transforming. But the point is, in this process that we live in, we must be about the business of choosing either to live forward, or the only other option is that we choose to simply quit and wait to die. As Andy said, get busy living or get busy dying. And Red said it as well. Well, I'm not a morbid person. I have viability, I have purpose, I have meaningfulness. This may be the last day of my life, but the point is, I'm not going to go down waiting for it to happen. I'm going to be in the business of doing things intentionally, living forward, taking those steps, and getting stuff done. All right, that's my message. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Thank you so very, very much, by the way, for being with me today. If this episode has been an encouragement to you, I ask you please share it with someone who may need a reminder that progress doesn't require perfection. And remember, your past may explain you, but it does not define you. Your circumstances may challenge you, but they don't have to control you. Remember that every sunrise offers another opportunity to become the person that you were created to be. So please, please, please keep learning, keep serving, keep believing, and most importantly, resolve to live forward. Well, until next time, this is John Morrow, and I will remind you that your next step, no matter how small, still moves you closer to the life that you were meant to live. I appreciate you joining me for this episode. Appreciate you taking the time and being patient with me in this episode. And by the grace of God, I'll look forward this time next Friday at 12 noon Eastern Time to sharing this episode with you in another installment. But until then, this is John Morrow. You've been listening to Resolve to Live Forward. Thank you for being with me today. And always, 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 please remember, resolve to live forward.